Welcome back to Devon and Cornwall, and a series that hopes to showcase some of the best adventures to be had in this small slice of England. If you're new here, my name's Caroline, and over the last few episodes I've explored National Trust properties such as Trengwainton, Godolphin, Levant Mine, Castle Drogo, Finch Foundry and Lydford Gorge. I've hiked sections of the South West Coast Path, watched a performance at the Clifftop Minack Theatre, and thrown myself off a few other cliff tops as part of a coast-steering tour. In today's episode, I'll be back at a Cornish National Trust property again, but this time it's the playful gardens of Glendurgan. If during the video you find yourself enjoying it, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel so that you can join me in my Devon and Cornwall adventures. Today I've come along to the National Trust's gardens of Glendurgan here in Cornwall. They were originally planted back in 1820 by Alfred Fox, a person who had come from family wealth, and the wealth had come from the shipping industry. With his contacts, he was able to convince some of the boat captains to bring back exotic plants from far-flung places. And when combined with the shape of the valley and the trees on either side, which provided protection from the wind, and also the ability for the cool air in the winter to get sucked out to sea, it meant that a lot of these exotic plants have been able to withstand the harsh winters that we get in the UK. And today I'm excited to try and find some of these plants, such as the century plant that originated in Mexico, the bugle lily from South Africa, the handkerchief tree which originated from China, the slightly bent looking tree Echium that comes from the Canary Islands, there's definitely something about me and National Trust properties in the southwest of England and ending up with stowaways on me, because at Castle Drogo I ended up with, I suppose, the next version of this little caterpillar, because I had a moth that decided to become a stowaway on me and went for a ride. I don't know, black and yellow? Does that mean poisonous? Back in 1833, Alfred Fox planted the cherry laurel hedges that you can see behind me to make the maze. The maze's design was based off of the very well-known Sydney Gardens maze in Bath. The hedges have to be pruned 5 times a year, and it takes 2 gardeners an entire week to do that. And a couple of decades ago, the National Trust made the rather difficult decision to prune it all the way back down flat to the ground, so the maze pretty much didn't exist at that point, and it was so that it could become healthier than what it was at that current time. And as you can see behind me, it is looking very healthy and great now. It was also a good opportunity when it was completely flat to get in there and restore that summer house that's in the middle, because naturally with the hedges as high as what it is right now, to try and get all of the materials in and out would be quite difficult at the moment, so they jumped on the opportunity whilst they had it. Up next we're going to attempt the maze, but knowing me, I think we're probably going to end up stuck in it for several hours. Into a dead end by the looks of things. Yeah, congratulations! I'm reaching the centre of Glendurgan's puzzle. come into the lower valley, and apparently the moisture often gets really trapped in here, making it very moist for the plants, but also really sheltered because obviously the valley sides are so much taller, and a lot of the plants that are grown down here are from Australia and New Zealand. And just as we're making our way down here, I'm really starting to recognise that these National Trust gardens have got such a different feel to them in comparison to other gardens that I've visited. It's a lot more playful, a lot more family friendly, and you're going to kind of have to take my word for it because I'm obviously not about to start filming random children, but they're running around chasing one another, parents getting involved, you've got a swing, you've got a maze, and it just seems like a really nice, fun and chill back place. The further into the valley that we walked at Glendurgan, we eventually got to a gate which led us out of the National Trust property, which I didn't realise. I thought that the beach that was here was owned by the National Trust, but it is possible by lots of things to come down a public road to be able to access where I'm sat at the moment. There was a clear sign on the gate that said that that gate is closed at 4:30, so we just obviously need to make sure that we get back inside before then so that they can shut, I guess, the top gates at 5 o'clock at closing time. It's a really cute fisherman's village, I guess, here that has a couple of cottages that are owned by the National Trust. I'm not too sure how many people they sleep or how much it costs, but if you were interested in a holiday let in this area with this kind of view, then it is a possibility. And then the properties that aren't owned by the National Trust are still owned by some of the Fox family, obviously the descendants of Alfred Fox and his wife. We've walked along a little bit. We had to climb over some higher up rocks, so I think a lot of the smaller children have not attempted to come over that because it would have been a little bit too dangerous. And the immediate beach that we got to was quite busy, quite a few people on there enjoying it, being a bit on the loud side, which is a good thing. It means that they're having fun whilst on holiday. There were a few washed up dead jellyfish or jellyfish that were dead, just kind of being swayed back and forth in the waves. Nowhere near as bad as our experience up in Scotland last summer, where it was like a jellyfish graveyard up there, but still not overly nice to see. We think that the storm that happened the night before when we went to St Ives probably washed them up ashore and led to their deaths. And we've had quite a few people out in things like boats and stand-up paddleboards. In fact, I think there was a couple who were racing and quite skilled in their turns, which was quite fun just to watch on. It is a really nice setting down here, and I know I said it before, like these gardens have just got a really different feel in comparison to most of the National Trust gardens that we've been to. But I think having this beach right on the estuary, it's yet another thing that just makes these gardens so different and so unique. It is really, really tranquil down here. The village of Durgan was originally inhabited almost entirely by fishermen, as the waters around here were popular with pilchards, mackerel, lobsters and crabs. Their catches were taken to Falmouth market on donkeys, and whilst in the summer the donkeys were able to roam freely in the hillsides surrounding the village, in the winter time they actually lived in the cellars, so I guess each of these cottages must have a cellar underneath that was large enough to house a donkey. I've had a little bit of time to chill on the beach. I've eaten a little bit of the traditional Cornish heather cake, which seemed very appropriate given that it was a fisherman's feast as a reward for bringing back in a good catch. And of course that was down in the fisherman's village. Just like skimmed some stones and watched on as people were out boating and standing up paddleboarding. We're now making our way back up through the valley, but there is a whole other path that we've not even investigated yet, so that's what we're now off to go and check out. The sign saying that Giant Stride is awaiting inspection. I thought as we walked around this hedge, I said it is far too quiet right now. Why is no one using it? I'm guessing that they probably had it shut off during the whole COVID period, because obviously people holding on to them to swing around on it would have been a bit of a spreader, and then I guess they've just not had it inspected whilst it's been shut. So a bit of a shame. I was hoping to be a big kid on both the maze and also on the Giant Stride. If you haven't been able to work it out yet for yourself, the idea is you grab onto one of the handles that's higher than your head and you run and you get to swing around the thing. Here is the old schoolhouse, and it is a beautifully quaint looking building. You've got what looks to me like an almost perfect thatched roof, and then you've got the quintessential windows. Inside there is a plaque that goes over what were the school rules back in 1828, and to be honest, as a teacher in 2021, there's not an awful lot of difference between them. It stipulates that the teacher should read out the students' names at the beginning of the day, and each child should respond accordingly, and that a bad or negative mark should be marked off next to their name if they are late or if they're not doing the things that they're expected to do, for example talking whilst the teacher is. And then it goes on to say that a positive or a good mark should be put next to their name if they're doing the things that's expected of them or they work hard in a piece of work. And all of that's pretty much ringing true today, but obviously we just use an electronic database instead of something being marked off with pen and paper. The one thing, however, that is crazy to me is the rule with regards to talking. So it does say that children should be encouraged to not talk at all and instead be encouraged to communicate using body language. And that just seems crazy to me. I cannot imagine trying to get answers back from my students with them not being allowed to actually verbally speak and instead have to do things with their arms and legs and facial expressions. It's just crazy. Really enjoyed myself today. It's been a very different National Trust experience. The demographic that's here, very different. A lot of families out, I think, taking advantage of both the beach and then the child-friendly things like the maze. So if you do have young children, to be honest, actually I saw plenty of teenagers enjoying themselves as well, I would highly recommend this place. But for now we are changing our accommodation. We're going a bit further up in Cornwall, so we've got a little bit of a drive ahead of us, so we're going to get back in the car and get driving.